this to back to the Nephilim? Are these the root people?
They all go back. They all go back to the Nephilim,
and
the Navalim, as the Hindus would say.
And according to your research, are these an extraterrestrial race, or where do these guys come from?
Well, this is what now the Greek word Nephilim means the phylum, like a certain type of animal or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but in the Hindus call them Navalim,
mm-hmm.
and Na means or Nava, yes, Na means Noah.
Mm, yeah.
But Valine means a starship, like an airship.
Yeah.
From another planet.
So
they.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they came down, and they, the Bible just mentions these. They don't mention the whys, but we more or less guess it. And then they mixed with Noah or Manu.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't mix with all the tribes, though, that was going to produce the messiahs. Mm-hmm. They just mixed with Yayati or Japeti, and we call it Japhet.
Mm-hmm.
And then the race moved over to Yadu, then Yadava, and last of all, the Jews are the Yehuda.
So are these the Nephilim in that sense? Are these guys? How should I put it? Administrators for or of God? Have these guys?
Well, I think they're administrators of the whole universe, because they somehow in ancient India were leaders, but their ancient leaders were called by another name.
Mm-hmm.
Now these people, they had a little bit of a different name. They were called Kurush.
Mm-hmm.
But the regular leadership caste of the ancient Indians were the Kashi, Kashatriya.
Okay.
You've heard of those?
No, actually I haven't.
That's the leadership caste. But this spiritual caste were called the Christas, or the Christayas, Kurush. And Jesus himself was a Kurush. They called him David Kurush, or he was the son of David. Now, the word David in Sanskrit means knowledge of God Shiva.
Really?
And then Quraysh was the ancient leadership tribe of the Middle East. Even Muhammad was a Quraysh himself.
Huh. Okay.
So they went down and they bred. Now they didn't just blend their bodies into those of the people there. They bred, and put their genes in the bosoms of those women.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore they passed down their genes only through the bloodstreams of the Yad. Go here, this other page.
Yeah.
Through the Yadas and the Yadava, or the Yehudas, or Jews. For that they had to breed with the daughters of men, leaving their seed in the wombs of these daughters. The closer people were tied genetically to the Yadu and Yadava, the easier it was to get a correct genetic match for producing a fetus capable of hosting a true son of the unbegotten. Any of the other races could produce saints, but not saviors like Jesus and Krishna. For that reason, Lord Krishna and Jesus were related by blood ties. Krishna was a Yadu Kuru, Jesus was a Yehudi Koresh. So could it be that the Hebrew and Hindu gods, all of them, entering mankind's bloodstream through Japhet, the son of Noah, were really gods? It seems that they were. We whose religions descend from Noah's times, worshipping the same deities, accuse one another of being wrong and that we are right. But we are all brothers, let's face it. What amazes me is that the Christiani, who were the people of Noah, and now the Christians, have never left the world scene. Before researching this information, I wondered why the Jews have always said they are the chosen people. That is because they, the Yadavas and the Yadus, were the only ones chosen by God to bring redemption to the world. And over the centuries, the Jews came to forget that they also shared that honor with the Indian Japeti, Yadus, and Yadavas. In ancient times, these tribes were said to possess great mystical knowledge. I've read a lot about them in the in Hindu mythology.
Sure, yeah.
They were said to possess great mystical knowledge, more than any other peoples on earth. It may be true that those who were chosen for the priesthood had to perform some kind of test to prove that they descended from the divine beings called Nephilim. And this is mentioned in the Bible. In Hebrews 7:3, we read a description of the mysterious figure called Melchizedek.
Yeah, Melchizedek, yeah.
Yeah, whom I claim was Malika Sadaka, Lord Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu. And this is what the Bible says about this. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. The Bible said clearly that the Nephilim were divine. Now, I know that some people might regard such speculations as these as fantasy. But, after my research, I'm taking these Hindus, the Jewish and Hindu scriptures, seriously now. I am actually convinced.
So there is, as you say here, there is a a parallel between the Bible and the Hindu scriptures. Let me ask you a little bit about the Hindu scriptures. Can you read Sanskrit yourself, or do you rely on other people's?
I have studied. I know thousands of words, but I can't speak it.
Okay, yeah.
But I do know thousands of words, and I never take a word seriously unless it relates to something in our Bible or something like this. I always say, if it has a name, it must have the game.
Okay.
Or if it has the game, it must have the name. I will not accept it if it doesn't directly relate.
Okay. So is that kind of a main theme that you follow, that you're looking for correlations between names?
I will never choose a word in these. I like linguistics.
Yeah. But
I'll never use a word unless it has a direct relationship to something that I'm after.
Okay.
But if it doesn't, I toss it in the wastebasket. Now, for instance, let's talk about the word for soul in Sanskrit. We call it Atman, but there's another word. The Sanskrit Kabbalistic word for soul is called Purusa.
Purusa?
Yeah, Purusa, P-U-R-U-S-A, meaning the soul and original source of the universe, identified as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Durga. That's the original source, and that's called a Purusa. Now, in Christianity, 2 Peter 1:15, the spirituality, rebirth, and coming of Christ is called Parusya. In Hinduism, Vishnu reincarnated as God Krishna as Parusa. Also, that's according to the Hindu Arthaveda.
Okay, interesting.
Saint Paul himself preached or believed that Christ was in the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and he said so.
Really? In
the book of Hebrews 6:26, and I hear 7:1, 7:16, 7:11, 7:17, because he called him Melchizedek, the teacher of Abraham. And as I said, another name of Krishna was Malika Sadaka, or King Sadaka. Sadaka, and even the Hebrew Sedek and Sadak, meant an adept, a magician, one possessed of magical powers. Now, Jesus Christ was called Yeshua, Yesu, Isa, and so forth, several names of both Shiva and Krishna. Now, Krishna belonged, as I said, to the holy Kurdish priestly sect, and Jesus was also named after his ancestor, King David Koresh, and in Sanskrit, David means knowledge of Shiva, and Koresh was the name of the priestly ruling house of David. And so I started out as an agnostic, and ended up as a believer that they are the chosen people of God, but they all have to descend from Japhet, the son of Noah. No other people on earth can be gods except those.
Interesting.
Okay.
One thing that comes to mind, and this is a passage that I read in one of your articles called "The Fabled Sunken Hindu Island Trikuta, the Real Atlantis." And in this article, you wrote, Christians deceive themselves into thinking that most biblical history took place in Israel, and not
no,
in Central Asia, where it really took place. And it continues to say, so do Hindus tend to forget that many of their most important deities and religious stories are imports from Siberia. So there is even a more how should I put it, ancient connection here that goes back to Siberia.
Nearly all of the history, religious history especially, of mankind goes back to the Altai in Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've heard of our biblical Heber, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they are both mentioned in the Hindu religious books. Now Heber, Heber had two sons. You know, see, because evidently the people they came out of the Altai down in either there or someplace there, and this big mountain Medu, and they started to live around this mountain, and the mountains started becoming overpopulated.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to distribute the people all around the world. Now with Heber, his sons Peleg and little brother Joktan, they distributed people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now in India, Heber is not called Peleg; he's called Kubera, or he's called Kibera.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Except the Hindus don't mention as Peleg as his son. They mention Palaka or Palaga as another name of Kubera, and then Joktan, which they call Yakshan, is not a specific person. It is a group of people. And so they distribute these people around the world, and according to the Ramayana, it took Kubera 10,000 years to spread the people around the world.
So
and the reason,
yeah, continue, please.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about the timeline, as it were, because that's always interesting. If we take, I don't know, the Bible by word, there have been calculations there, of course, that this goes back about 6,000 years, something like that. But when you correlate this with Hindu scriptures and so forth, do we have to back up this, many more years? How many thousands of years do we have to go back here?
Well, I really don't know that very well, but I would say that all of this perhaps happened around 6,000 BC.
Okay, yeah.
And they distributed these people around the world, and another thing that was so very interesting, mankind, was supposed to have fallen apart about that time, and the Hindu scriptures, they tell almost the exact story about Ham and Shem and Japheth as we do, except you know what happened after the flood. And Noah, got drunk on some wine that he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Ham found him naked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And called the brothers in, and they laughed about it. And they tell the same story in the Hindu scriptures, but they differs a little bit. They say that Ham he performed sodomy on his father.
Oops. Okay.
On Noah. Well, Noah was drunk. And so. Noah got angry about it when he found out about it, and he said to Shem after that, or Ham, that he laughed at him, so his descendants will be called people of laughter. This is kind of funny because we have the Hohokams, and they call it the Heheyas, and other tribes by that name all around the world.
Really? Yeah. It's interesting story.
Yeah, because we have the Hohokams, out here in the Southwest.
Okay.
and so Ho happy, and then Calm, that's Ham.
Okay.
And I find the old Bible all over the world, and also because their scriptures are a lot like ours.
So
they all descend.
Yeah. What I was going to ask was, is all of this also, you think, related to? There's much talk about the lost tribes of Israel and all of this. Is this a connection here, some kind here?
No, there were never any lost tribes.